The door swung open like a gunshot in the quiet of my childhood bedroom. And there he was, Isaiah, all 6'3" of him, frozen in the frame with a six-pack of beer dangling from one hand. I yanked my shirt up to cover my chest, but it was too late. The fluorescent hall lights sliced through the dusk, illuminating the jagged scar snaking across my ribs like a map to every secret I'd buried. "Levi," he breathed, not turning away, his voice cracking the air between us like thunder rolling over the Iowa cornfields. "Put that down. Whatever ghost made you hide like this, it ain't welcome here anymore." I stood there, heart slamming against my sternum, the damp towel from my post-run shower slipping from my fingers to the hardwood floor. Isaiah didn't move, didn't flinch or mutter some half-assed apology like the guys at college who pretended not to stare. His eyes, deep brown, flecked with gold like the wheat fields back home, held mine steady, seeing right through the armor I'd welded on over the years. Dad was downstairs fiddling with the grill, oblivious as always, the sizzle of burgers masking the chaos unfolding above. This was supposed to be just another summer barbecue, the kind where old army buddies swapped war stories and cracked open cores while the kids, me mostly, faded into the background. But Isaiah, he'd always been different. The one who slipped me extra cash for comics when Dad was too deep in his Bud Light to notice. The one who asked about my sketches without laughing at the weird ones of boys holding hands under street lamps. I swallowed hard, the metallic taste of panic flooding my mouth. "Uncle Isaiah, I mean Mr. Hale, it's not." But the words died, tangled in the lump in my throat. He set the beers on my dresser with a soft clink, stepping inside like he owned the space, closing the door behind him with a click that echoed louder than it should. The room smelled of his cologne now, sandalwood and leather, cutting through the stale air of my unpacked duffel bag and the faint mildew from the rain last night. He was in his early 40s, lines etched around his eyes from too many deployments and not enough sleep. His flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and faded tattoos of eagles and dog tags. Dad's best friend since basic training in '98, the guy who'd pulled Dad out of a ditch in Fallujah and carried him 2 miles on his back. And now, here he was, staring at me like I was the mission that mattered. "Levi," he said again, softer this time, crossing the room in 2 strides. He didn't touch me. God, no, that would have shattered everything. But he crouched down to my level, his knees popping like old floorboards. "Your dad said you were back from school for the weekend. Didn't mention you were carrying all that." His gaze flicked to the scar, then back to my face. No pity, just a raw acknowledgement that made my knees buckle. I sank onto the edge of the bed, the springs groaning under me, and pulled my knees up, the shirt still clutched like a shield. How do you explain to a man like Isaiah that the mark came from a high school bonfire gone wrong? Some drunk jock shoving me into the flames after catching me kissing a teammate in the shadows. That I'd lied to Dad, said it was an accident with the grill, because admitting the truth would mean admitting who I was. Gay. In Harlan, Iowa, where the closest rainbow flag was a joke on a tractor sticker, and love like mine was whispered about like a curse. He sat beside me, the mattress dipping, our shoulders inches apart. The fan whirred lazily overhead, stirring the humid July air, and outside, crickets started their evening chorus, a soundtrack to this unraveling moment. "Talk to me, kid," he murmured, his Texas drawl slipping through, warm as fresh cornbread. "I've seen worse than a few lines on skin. Seen boys, men, like us, broken in ways that don't show. Like us." The words hung there, heavy as the humidity, and I felt the world tilt. Did he mean? No, couldn't be. Isaiah Hale, decorated vet, divorced dad to a daughter in Austin, the guy who high-fived me at my graduation like I was his own. But the way he said it, the quiet weight, it cracked something open in me, a fissure letting in light I'd long forgotten. I let the shirt drop, exposing the twisted pink line that pulled tight when I breathed deep. "It was nothing," I lied, voice barely above a whisper. "Just stupid kid stuff." But he shook his head, slow, like he was reading the fine print on a discharge paper. "Bullshit. I know bullshit when I smell it, Levi. And this," he gestured vaguely at the air between us. "This is the real deal. Whatever's eating you, you don't gotta shoulder it alone. His hand hovered near my arm, then dropped, respecting the invisible line. That's when I noticed the ring tan on his finger, faded from years without the band. His ex-wife had taken it in the settlement, or so Dad said. Isaiah had come out to her, quietly, after the divorce papers were signed. Dad never spoke of it, just clapped him on the back and changed the subject to the Hawkeye season. The barbecue smoke wafted up through the cracked window, mingling with the scent of charred meat and lighter fluid. Dad's laugh boomed from below, followed by the clatter of tongs. Boys, food's up. But neither of us moved. I turned to him, really looked, seeing the silver threading his temples, the way his jaw clenched when he was holding back. Why do you care? I asked, the question spilling out raw and unfiltered. You're just Dad's friend. He chuckled, low and rueful, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, well, friends look out for family. And you've been family since you were knee-high, drawing tanks in the dirt while your old man and I shot the shit. His eyes softened. But lately? In those letters you sent from Iowa City talking about art classes and city lights, I saw a light in you dimming. Like Harlan's got its hooks in too deep. I hadn't realized he'd kept those letters. The ones I'd scribbled on napkins during late-night study sessions, venting about the hookups that felt empty. The professors who eyed me like a curiosity. University had been freedom wrapped in concrete. Cafes with pride stickers on the doors. Guys who kissed without glancing over their shoulders. But coming home, it was like stepping back into a closet with the walls closing in. It's hard here, I admitted, the words tumbling free. Pretending. Every day. He nodded, understanding, etching deeper lines on his face. I know. Came out at 40, after burying it under sandbags and salutes. Lost friends. Damn near lost my girl. But Levi being seen? Is worth the fight. You deserve that. Not judgment. Not shadows. Downstairs, the screen door slapped open and shut. Dad's voice calling again. Closer now. Isaiah stood, offering a hand to pull me up. I took it, his palm rough and steady, calluses from wrenches and rifles grounding me. Come on, he said with a wink that didn't reach his eyes. All storm clouds now. Can't let your dad eat all the ribs. As we headed down the creaky stairs, his shoulder brushed mine. Just once, accidental. And heat bloomed in my chest, foreign and fierce. That night, as fireworks popped over the fairgrounds in the distance, celebrating some forgotten 4th of July rerun, I lay awake, tracing the scar with my fingertip, wondering if Isaiah's words were a lifeline or just another illusion in the Heartland haze. The next morning dawned sticky, the kind of Iowa summer where the air clung like a second skin. I woke to the rumble of Dad's truck pulling out for an early shift at the plant, leaving the house echoing with quiet. Isaiah was crashing in the guest room. Something about a busted AC in his motel room downtown, and I found him in the kitchen, nursing black coffee at the Formica table. The Des Moines register spread out like a battlefield map. He looked up as I shuffled in, hair a mess, wearing nothing but boxers and a faded Cubs tee. Morning sunshine, he teased, sliding a mug my way. Sleep okay after last night's drama? I nodded, pouring sugar until the coffee turned to sludge, avoiding his gaze. The scar itched under my shirt, a phantom burn. Yeah, thanks for, you know. He waved it off, but his eyes lingered, tracing the line of my jaw like he was memorizing it. We talked then, easy at first, about the Cubs' losing streak and the new craft brewery in Ames, but it deepened, veering into territories Dad never touched. College life, the thrill of anonymous nights in dorms, the ache of going home to silence. Isaiah shared too, haltingly. The closeted years in the barracks, the letter to his daughter that arrived last Christmas. Her reply a simple "I love you," Dad scrawled in crayon colors. By noon, we were out in the garage, him showing me how to rebuild the carburetor on Dad's old Ford, grease smudging our hands black. His laugh rumbled when I cursed a stripped bolt, and when our fingers brushed over the wrench, neither pulled away. It was innocent, I told myself, mentor and mentee, uncle and nephew in all but blood. But as the sun climbed high, baking the asphalt driveway, I caught myself stealing glances at the sweat beading on his neck, the way his shirt clung to his back. Desire, sharp as a switchblade, sliced through the denial. This was Isaiah. Forbidden territory. That evening, Dad came home with takeout from the diner. Greasy burgers and fries, and we ate on the porch, fireflies winking in the yard like conspirators. Conversation flowed around sports and weather, but under the table, Isaiah's boot nudged mine. A silent check-in. Later, as Dad snored through a ball game on TV, Isaiah and I ended up on the back steps, sharing a stolen beer from the fridge. Stars wheeled overhead, the Milky Way a smudge against the black, and he told me about Baghdad nights. Lovers lost to IEDs and don't ask, don't tell. Love's a battlefield, Levi, he said, voice thick. But it's the only hill worth dying on. I leaned closer, emboldened by the buzz. Show me how to fight it. His breath hitched, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the space between us. Then Dad's cough from the living room shattered it, and Isaiah pulled back, clapping my shoulder like nothing happened. But everything had. As I climbed to my room, the stairs creaking underfoot, I knew this weekend wasn't ending with handshakes and goodbyes. It was just beginning. A spark in the dry tinder of my life, threatening to ignite. The days blurred into a rhythm that felt both stolen and inevitable, like the summer rains that rolled in unannounced, soaking the fields and leaving everything sharper, greener. Dad's shifts at the John Deere plant stretched long. His absences an unwitting gift, giving Isaiah and me the run of the house. We'd start with breakfast, him flipping eggs in the cast-iron skillet his mama swore by, me sketching at the table, charcoal smudging my fingers as I captured the way light slanted through the lace curtains, gilding his profile. Artist's eye, he'd say, plating food with a flourish, but there was pride in it, real and unguarded, the kind I'd craved from Dad but never gotten. One afternoon, we drove out to the river, the Mississippi a lazy brown ribbon winding through bluffs dotted with cottonwoods. Isaiah's truck, a battered '92 Chevy with a bumper sticker reading Army Strong, kicked up dust on the gravel road, country radio crooning Garth Brooks as we bumped along. He parked at a secluded bend, the water murmuring over rocks, and we waded in up to our knees, the current tugging at our jeans. Remember when you were 10, begging me to teach you to skip stones? He asked, palming a flat shale disc. I laughed, the sound surprising me. Light, unburdened. Yeah, and you made me practice till my arm ached. Said it built character. He grinned, that lopsided smile that crinkled his eyes, and demonstrated. The stone kissing the surface 4 times before sinking. Your turn. I tried, failing spectacularly, the rock plunking straight down. He stepped behind me, hands on my hips to adjust my stance. Casual, instructional. But the contact sent electricity arcing up my spine. Like this? He murmured, breath warm against my ear, guiding my arm in a slow arc. The stone skipped twice, a small victory, and I turned in his hold, faces inches apart, the river's hush amplifying our breaths. His thumbs brushed my belt loops, lingering, and I saw it then, the mirror of my own hunger in his eyes, tempered by caution, by the years between us. We didn't kiss, not yet, but we talked, words pouring out like the water beside us. I confessed the bonfire night in full, the jeers that followed me through senior year, the way I dated Sarah Jenkins in a desperate bid for normalcy, breaking her heart and mine when she found my browser history. Isaiah listened, skipping stones in steady rhythm, then shared his own ghosts. The sergeant in Kuwait who'd promised forever until a Dear John letter came stateside. The bar fight in San Antonio where he defended a twink half his size and ended up with a busted lip and a week's leave. Judgment's a heavy load, Levi, he said, voice roughened by the wind. But seeing yourself clear? That's freedom. Back home, Dad noticed the shift. How we lingered over dinner, our laughter overlapping like harmonies. You two are thick as thieves, he joked one night, cracking open a Hams. But there was an edge to it, a father's intuition pricking at the air. Isaiah deflected with a story about their boot camp pranks, Dad guffawing till he wheezed. But later, as I cleared plates, Dad pulled me aside in the pantry. That man's been through hell, son. Don't go getting ideas. His grip on my arm was firm, eyes narrowing. Ideas? I echoed, pulse racing. He released me, shaking his head. Just watch yourself. World's hard enough without complications. The warning lodged like a splinter, but it didn't stop the pull. Nights, when Dad's snores rattled the walls, Isaiah and I would slip out to the porch swing, the chains creaking under our weight. We'd talk dreams. Mine of New York galleries and lofts overlooking the Hudson. His of a quiet ranch in Wyoming, horses grazing under endless sky. His hand would find mine in the dark, fingers interlacing slow, tentative, like testing a frayed rope. The first time he kissed my knuckles, soft as a prayer, I thought my heart would burst. "This okay?" he whispered, and I nodded, words failing, pulling him closer till our foreheads touched, breaths mingling in the firefly glow. But Harlan wasn't made for secrets like ours. Whispers started. Mrs. Whitaker at the post office asking Dad if Isaiah was staying long. Her eyes darting to me with that knowing squint. At the gas station, old Mr. Klein clapped Isaiah on the back too hard, muttering about city ways under his breath. I felt the town's gaze like pins, pricking at the bubble we'd built. One evening, after a shift at the local bookstore, stacking Harlequins and Midwestern poetry, I came home to find Isaiah on the phone in the garage, voice low and strained. "Yeah, baby girl, Daddy's fine. Just helping out an old friend." His daughter, Ellie, 8 now, her voice tinny through the speaker. He hung up, seeing me in the doorway, and his face crumpled. "Miss her something fierce?" he admitted, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. I crossed to him, wrapping arms around his waist, his chin resting on my head. "You'll see her soon," I murmured, but doubt crept in. How could this last, with Austin calling him back, and Dad's world so small? The conflict simmered, bubbling over on a Thursday when Dad came home early, catching us in the kitchen. Isaiah was at the stove, stirring chili, while I chopped onions, our hips bumping in that easy dance we'd fallen into. Dad burst through the door, lunchbox in hand, grease stains on his overalls. "Forgot my damn thermos," he grumbled, then froze, taking in the scene. Isaiah's hand on my lower back, steadying me as I reached for a spice jar. The air thickened, chili bubbling forgotten on the burner. "What the hell's this?" Dad's voice was low, dangerous, like the rumble before a twister. Isaiah stepped back, hands up, placating. "Easy, Tom. Just cooking. Levi's helping." But Dad's eyes bored into mine, accusation sharp as a hay hook. "Helping, huh? Looks cozy." I set the knife down, onions stinging my eyes, or maybe it was tears. "Dad, it's nothing. We're just—" He cut me off, turning on Isaiah. "You come into my house, eat my food, and pull this shit with my boy? After everything?" Isaiah's jaw tightened, but he held steady. "Tom, listen. It's not what you think. Levi's a good kid. Deserves better than sneaking around." "Better?" Dad barked, a laugh bitter. "From you? The guy who couldn't keep his own family." The words landed like shrapnel, and Isaiah flinched, color draining from his face. I stepped between them, heart hammering. "Stop. Dad, you don't understand." But he did, in that gut-deep way small-town men do, smelling the shift in the wind, the unspoken truths. "I understand plenty," he snarled, storming out to the yard, slamming the screen door so hard the frame rattled. Isaiah sank into a chair, head in hands. I should have known. Pushed too far. I knelt before him, gripping his knees. "No, this is on us, all of us." But the damage was done, a fracture in the foundation. That night, Dad slept in the recliner, TV flickering blue light across his scowl. Isaiah packed a bag quietly, knuckles white on the zipper. "Gotta go, Levi. Clear the air." His kiss goodbye was fierce, desperate, tasting of salt and regret, pressed against the garage wall in the moon's pale wash. "This isn't over," he vowed, thumb tracing my scar. "You hear me? You deserve to be seen." He drove off into the dawn, taillights fading like a dying ember, leaving me hollowed out in the empty kitchen. Dad avoided my eyes over cereal, the silence a chasm. Whispers turned to stares at the grocery store, the diner, Harlan closing ranks. I buried myself in sketches, charcoal portraits of Isaiah's hands, his smile, the river's bend. But the betrayal stung deepest. Not Dad's anger, but the fear that Isaiah might not come back, that our stolen days were just a mirage in the heat. Weeks passed in a haze of harvest fairs and football practices, the air crisp with falling leaves. Dad thawed slowly, gruff apologies over pancakes. Didn't mean to blow up, son, just protective. But the rift lingered, unspoken. I threw myself into community college applications, dreaming of escape, but Isaiah haunted me. A postcard from Wyoming, a blurry photo of sagebrush and sky, no return address. Then, one November evening, as frost etched the windows, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Missed you at Thanksgiving. Ranch is lonely. Hope flickered, fragile as first snow. I replied, fingers flying. Come back, please. His response came hours later. Can't. Not yet. But soon. Hold on, Levi. It wasn't enough, but it was oxygen. Dad noticed my distraction, finally cornering me by the woodpile. That hail fella, he reach out? I nodded, bracing. He sighed, rubbing his beard. Look, I ain't blind. Or stupid. If it's that way, just be careful. World still got teeth. It wasn't acceptance, but it was a crack in the door, humanistic in its gruff honesty. Winter gripped Harlan, snow blanketing the fields in white silence. I worked shifts at the bookstore, recommending Baldwin to curious teens, feeling the weight of my own hidden pages. Isaiah's texts became lifelines, stories of mending fences, Ellie's laughter on video calls, building a bridge across the miles. But doubt gnawed. Was this love, or just reprieve? The climax brewed like a nor'easter, arriving on a sleet-lashed night when Dad collapsed in the living room, clutching his chest, face ashen as the drifts outside. The ambulance wailed through the storm like a banshee, red lights fracturing the ice on the windows, turning the world into a kaleidoscope of panic. I rode in the back with Dad, his hand limp in mine, paramedics barking vitals over the din, BPs dropping possible MI. While sleet lashed the rig like accusations, Harlan Community Hospital loomed at the edge of town, a squat brick fortress under sodium lamps, and they wheeled him straight to cath lab, leaving me in the ER waiting room, the vinyl chairs cold against my jeans, vending machine coffee bitter on my tongue. I texted Isaiah blindly. Dad had a heart attack. Come, please. No reply at first, just the tick of the wall clock and the muffled sobs of a woman down the hall. Hours stretched, elastic and cruel, until the doctor emerged. Dr. Patel, harried in green scrubs, pronouncing him stable. Blockage cleared, stent in place, but touch and go. Relief crashed over me, mingled with guilt. Had the fight triggered this, our fractured family, a clot in his arteries? I sat vigil by his bed, machines beeping a mechanical lullaby, his face slack under the oxygen mask, the man who'd built hot rods in the garage now reduced to 4 drips and monitors. Sorry, kid, he mumbled when he woke, voice raspy. For everything. I squeezed his hand, tears blurring the monitors. Rest, Dad. We'll fix it. Isaiah arrived at dawn, snow-dusted and wind-burned, bursting through the double doors like a force of nature. He'd driven through the night from Cheyenne, Ellie with his sister, truck eating miles on prayer and black coffee. He enveloped me in a bear hug in the hallway, flannel damp, cologne cutting through the antiseptic sting. How is he? He asked, pulling back to scan my face. Stable, but scared. Isaiah nodded, jaw set, then shouldered past the curtain, Dad's eyes widening in surprise. Tom, he said simply, pulling up a chair. You old bastard. Can't shake you that easy. Dad managed a weak chuckle, the sound wheezing. Hail. Figured you'd show. Always did clean up my messes. They talked then, low, halting, about the army days, the divorce Isaiah never detailed, the son Dad never fully knew. I hovered outside, eavesdropping on fragments. Levi's got your fire, Tom. And more. Dad's reply, gruff. Yeah, Saw that. Just didn't want him burned. It was the closest to a blessing, wrapped in rust and regret. Isaiah emerged hours later, eyes red-rimmed, clapping my shoulder. He's tough, like us. We collapsed in the cafeteria, picking at Jell-O and weak tea, exhaustion carving hollows under our eyes. Thank you, I whispered, foot hooking his under the table. He covered my hand with his thumb stroking knuckles. Family, remember? Dad stabilized, transferred to a step-down unit, and Isaiah stayed. Bunking on a cot in my room at home, the house feeling fuller, less haunted. We fell into a routine. Hospital runs, mealtimes where Isaiah charmed the nurses with Texas tall tales, nights where we debrief in the truck, headlights cutting fog, his hand on my thigh a constant anchor. Love deepened in those stolen interstices. Kisses in the hospital stairwell, fierce and grateful. Slow dances to radio static in the kitchen, bodies swaying to unwritten rhythms. But betrayal loomed, insidious as the winter chill. It came via email, innocuous at first. A forwarded chain from Dad's work buddy. Subject town talk. Inside, screenshots of texts. Mine to Isaiah, pulled from some hacked cloud account. Words like, miss your touch, and can't wait to see you, splashed across a gossip thread on the Harlan Facebook group. Queer as a $3 bill, one comment sneered. Tom's boy turning tricks with the vet? Shame. My stomach plummeted, the betrayal not in the hack. Kids at the high school probably bored and cruel. But in the speed of its spread, the town's venom digitized and viral. Dad saw it on his hospital tablet, face crumpling before he tossed it aside. Christ, Levi, why didn't you say? I confronted him in the room, Isaiah at my side, the air thick with beeps and betrayal. I was going to, when it was right. Dad's eyes watery. Right? This town's eating us alive. Isaiah stepped in, voice steel. Then we fight it. Together. But the damage rippled. Visitors dwindling, whispers in the halls, a pink slip waiting for Dad at the plant. Restructuring, they called it, code for scandal. I felt exposed. The scar on my chest mirrored by the one on my soul. Judgment's blade twisting deeper. Climax crested on a February gale. Winds howling like furies as we drove home from the hospital. Dad discharged but frail, bundled in the back seat. Isaiah's truck hydroplaned on black ice, slewing across lanes toward the guardrail. The world inverting in a screech of tires and shattering glass. Time fractured. My scream, Isaiah's arm shooting out to shield me, the crunch of metal folding like paper. We spun to a stop, nose first into the ditch, steam hissing from the hood, airbags deflated ghosts. Dad groaned from the back, clutching his side, but alive. Isaiah bled from a gash on his forehead, turning to me first. You okay? I nodded, shaking, pulling him into a hug across the console, blood smearing my cheek. Don't you dare leave me. Rescue came slow, tow trucks and ambulances crawling through the storm. But we emerged unbroken, if battered. Dad with bruised ribs, Isaiah with stitches, me with a sprained wrist and a resolve forged in wreckage. In the ER again, waiting for x-rays, Dad pulled us both close, voice trembling. Enough hiding. You two, you're good for each other. For me, it was absolution, humanistic and hard won. The betrayal's sting dulled by survival's grace. Spring thawed the fields, green shoots pushing through mud, mirroring the tentative bloom in us. Isaiah sold the Wyoming dream, leasing a plot just outside Harlan. Small, with a fixer-upper barn for his tools and space for Ellie's visits. Dad retired early on disability, taking up woodworking, carving decoys that sold at the farmer's market. His gruff pride including us now. My boys, he'd say, winking. I deferred NYU for a year, enrolling at the community college's art program, exhibiting my first show in Des Moines. Portraits of scarred hands, river bends, men loving fierce under open skies. Isaiah and I built slow. Dates at the drive-in, picnics by the Mississippi, nights tangled in his new bed, touches reverent, emotions laid bare without the frenzy of secrecy. You deserve this, he'd whisper, tracing my scar. Seen whole. Betrayal's shadow lingered in deleted accounts and averted eyes at the co-op, but we faced it head-on, volunteering at the local LGBTQ youth group, Isaiah sharing his story to wide-eyed teens, me sketching their hopes. One June evening, as cicadas hummed and lightning bugs danced, we stood on the porch of our shared life. The house Dad deeded half to Isaiah in a quiet notary's office. Ellie chased fireflies in the yard, her laughter a melody, Dad grilling ribs with a steady hand. Isaiah slipped an arm around my waist, chin on my shoulder. Worth the fight? I asked, turning into him. His kiss was answer enough. Deep, promising, the taste of forever in the heartland dusk. Yet peace, in Harlan, was a fragile truce, easily upended by the town's undercurrents. Summer swelled, humid and heavy, bringing tourists to the river bluffs and tempers to a boil. Isaiah's ranch, 20 acres of rolling pasture fringed by oak groves, became our sanctuary, but work pulled him into town. Freelance mechanic gigs at Klein's garage, where old-timers tested his resolve with sidelong glares and friendly jabs. "Heard you and the boy are shacked up?" Mr. Klein muttered one afternoon, wiping grease from his hands as Isaiah torqued a lug nut. Isaiah straightened, meeting the man's watery eyes. "Yeah, Levi's my partner. Got a problem?" Klein shrugged, but the tension coiled, a spring waiting to snap. I felt it too, in the bookstore's hushed aisles, where customers fingered self-help tomes on acceptance while shooting me pitying smiles. My exhibit in Des Moines had garnered a write-up in the Register, "Local Artist Captures Queer Heartland," which should have been triumph, but back home it fueled the embers. Anonymous notes slipped under the door. "Go back to the city, freak." Dad found one, crumpling it with a curse. "Ignore 'em, son. They're scared of what they don't get." But fear gnawed at me, the scar a constant reminder that visibility invited wounds. Isaiah sensed it, countering with gestures small and profound. A leather-bound sketchbook monogrammed with our initials, breakfasts of migas and stories of his abuela's kitchen in Laredo. We'd ride the property on his old mare, Daisy, wind whipping our hair, talking futures, adopting Ellie full-time if his ex agreed, maybe a gallery in Iowa City for me. Love deepened, romantic in its quiet rituals. Sunset walks where he'd recite Neruda from memory, his voice gravel over silk. Slow mornings in bed, bodies mapping each other with whispers and touches that healed more than hurt. But conflict reignited in August, a betrayal sharper than the first. Ellie's mom, Carla, Isaiah's ex, a sharp-tongued paralegal from his Austin days, called unannounced, her voice tinny over the speakerphone as we prepped for a county fair. "She's asking questions, ISA, about why Daddy has a boyfriend now. The school's got wind." Some busybody parent forwarded that article. Isaiah's face drained, phone slipping in his grip. "What questions?" Carla sighed, weary. "The usual kid stuff, but the custody evaluator's sniffing around. Says the lifestyle raises flags." Betrayal hit like a gut punch. Not Carla's, she was fair, fighting for stability, but the system's cold machinery, judging Isaiah's heart by outdated yardsticks. We drove to Austin the next week, a 12-hour haul through Nebraska flatlands and Oklahoma dust. Ellie waiting with wide eyes and a crayon drawing of Daddy and Levi riding horses. The visit was a minefield. Supervised playdates in sterile parks, Carla's new husband eyeing us like suspects, Ellie's innocent hugs a bomb and a blade. "Do you love Levi like you loved Mommy?" she asked one night, tucked in with her stuffed armadillo. Isaiah knelt, voice steady. "More in a different way, like how the sun loves the moon, keeps the nights bright." She beamed, hugging us both, but the evaluator's report loomed. Unconventional household may impact child's development. Back in Harlan, rage simmered. Isaiah threw himself into work, rebuilding engines with a fury that bordered on reckless, coming home with bruised knuckles and silence. I'd find him in the barn, staring at faded photos of his army unit, the ones with the sergeant crossed out in black marker. "What if I lose her?" he'd mutter, and I'd pull him close, our embraces turning desperate, emotions raw as open wounds. Dad, ever the fixer, offered gruff counsel over beers on the porch. Fight dirty if you have to, hail. Courts ain't fair. But truth is. He even drove to the courthouse himself, digging up precedents on same-sex parenting. His millworker hands smudged with printer ink. The climax built through fall foliage, leaves turning crimson as warnings. Carla texted updates. Evaluator's home visit scheduled. Be discreet. And Isaiah chafed. The closets return a suffocation. One crisp October night, after a heated call where the evaluator grilled him on bedroom arrangements, he snapped. We were in the kitchen, stew simmering, when he slammed the phone down, splintering the case. Discreet? Like I'm some pervert hiding in the bushes. I reached for him, but he recoiled, eyes wild. This is what they want, Levi, to make us monsters. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am dragging you into this mess. The words landed like slaps. Betrayal from the man who taught me to stand tall. Don't, I pleaded, voice breaking. Don't let them win. But he stormed out into the dusk, truck roaring to life, leaving me with the stew boiling over, steam hissing like accusations. Dad found me there, head in hands. Go after him, son. Love's messy, but it's yours. I drove through twilight, field skeletal under harvest moon, finding Isaiah at the river bend. Our spot, hurling stones with vicious skips, silhouette etched against the current. He turned as gravel crunched under my tires, face streaked with tears. I'm sorry, he choked, collapsing against me as I pulled him into a hug. Scared I'll ruin you both. We sank to the bank, knees in mud. The river's murmur a confessor. I traced his tattoos, anchors in the storm. You saved me, I say, that day in my room. Now let me save you. We kissed then, not gentle, fierce, reclaiming, lips bruised by need, emotions poured. His fears of inadequacy, my terror of loss, woven into vows whispered over the water. Together, we echoed, fists clenched in promise. The evaluator's visit came mid-November, a brisk woman in wool with a clipboard and cool questions. We prepped meticulously, photos of family barbecues, Ellie's artwork pinned to the fridge, Dad's decoys as proof of roots. Isaiah answered steady, vulnerability his shield. Love isn't conventional here, ma'am, but it's real, and it's home. I added sketches of our life, portraits of Ellie on Daisy's back, Isaiah's hands gentle on her braids, art as testimony. She left with a nod, non-committal, but her eyes softened at the crayon scrawl. My two daddies. Winter whispered verdicts. Custody shared, with Isaiah's stable environment commended. The lifestyle clause dismissed as archaic. Carla called relief thick. You did it. For her. Ellie arrived for Christmas. The ranch strung with lights. Snow blanketing the pasture like forgiveness. Dad carved her a wooden horse. Isaiah taught her to skip stones, and I sketched the scene. Family, flawed and fierce, under the tree. Betrayal's echo faded, replaced by humanistic grace. The world's teeth dulled by our refusal to hide. As snow fell soft, Isaiah pulled me aside in the barn, Ellie's laughter drifting from the house. Marry me? He asked, ring simple, silver with an engraved river stone. Tears froze on my lashes. Yes, I breathed, sealing it with a kiss. Harlan watched, some with scorn, but more with quiet nods. The tide turning, slow as seasons. The engagement rippled through Harlan like a stone in still water, circles widening from acceptance to unease. Word spread via the beauty parlor grapevine and VFW hall murmurs. Tom's boy and that Hale fella? Tying the knot? Dad took it in stride, toasting with a Pabst at the kitchen table. About time you made an honest man of him. But undercurrents stirred. Invitations to the county fair went unanswered. The grocery clerk's smile turned brittle. Isaiah shrugged it off, focusing on the ranch. Fencing repairs, hay bales stacked high for spring calves. But I saw the toll in his restless sleeps, nightmares of deployments bleeding into dreams of courtrooms. We planned modest. A backyard ceremony at the ranch, wildflowers and lanterns. No frills beyond family and a few bold allies. Ellie as ring-bearer, her dress a cascade of tulle. Dad walking me down the aisle of mowed pasture. But conflict brewed anew when Carla arrived for fittings. Her new husband in tow, tension crackling like static. "This town's poison," she confided over coffee, while Isaiah chased Ellie on the swing set. "You sure you want roots here?" I glanced at him, laughing as he spun her higher, and nodded. "It's our poison. We'll detox it." Betrayal struck subtly, a serpent in Eden. One gray March morning, as thaw muddied the drive, Isaiah's phone buzzed with a voicemail from an old army buddy. Ramirez, stationed together in Mosul, bonded over MREs and midnight watches. "Congrats on the big news, man. But heads up, your CO from back in the day? Harlan PD's chief now. Saw the obit for his wife. Figured you'd want to know." Isaiah played it twice, face ashen, then explained. Chief Harlan, irony of the name, was the officer who'd outed him during a routine psych eval, leaking rumors that tanked his promotion and fueled barracks whispers. "Thought he was stateside, retired," Isaiah muttered, deleting the message. But the shadow lingered, a premonition. Spring bloomed defiant, crocuses pushing through frost, robins trilling at dawn, and our wedding swelled with unexpected guests. The bookstore owner, a quiet lesbian with a crew cut, bringing pie. Mrs. Whitaker, penitent, with a quilt stitched from feed sacks. Rehearsal dinner at the diner turned raucous, Dad regaling with tales of our misfit brigade. Isaiah's toast slurring into poetry. "Levi, you walked in on my scars and stayed. That's the love I fight for." We danced under string lights, bodies close, the world's judgment a distant hum. But the eve brought storm clouds, literal and figurative. Chief Harlan pulled Isaiah over on the county road, taillights flashing in the rearview as we headed home from picking up boutonnieres. "Routine stop," the chief drawled, badge glinting under his Stetson, breath sour with chew. "Heard you're settling down. Nice." His eyes raked me in the passenger seat, then fixed on Isaiah. "Just a reminder, Harlan's got standards. Keep it clean." Isaiah's grip whitened on the wheel. "Always do, sir." We drove in silence, the betrayal explicit now. Not just past sins unearthed, but a threat veiled as civility, the chief's influence a noose on our future. Climax erupted at dawn on wedding day, sun gilding the bluffs as guests milled the pasture. Ellie, in her flower crown, tugged my sleeve. "Uncle Levi, look!" A cruiser idled at the gate, Chief Harlan stepping out, uniform crisp, flanked by 2 deputies. Whispers rippled like wind through wheat. Dad strode forward, pitchfork in hand from the barn. Symbolic, not swung. "This private property," he growled. The chief smirked. "Heard complaints. Public indecency concerns. Here to ensure compliance." Isaiah emerged from the house, tux half-buttoned, face thunder. "On our wedding day? That's low, even for you." The standoff crackled, guests frozen. Carla shielding Ellie, the bookstore owner filming on her phone. I stepped up, heart-pounding, voice steady. "This isn't about decency. It's about control. You outed him once, Chief. Won't let you bury us now." Murmurs swelled to shouts. "Let him marry," from Mrs. Whitaker. "Shame on you," from a deputy, his own son waving a rainbow pin. The chief's facade cracked, eyes darting as the crowd closed in, phones capturing every flinch. "This ain't over," he spat, retreating to his cruiser, tires spinning mud as he fled. Chaos dissolved into catharsis. Laughter mingled with tears, the ceremony proceeding under a sky clearing to azure. Dad's arm linked mine down the aisle, his whisper, "Proud, son." Isaiah waited at the arch of wild roses, eyes shining, vows exchanged simple. "I see you, scars and all, forever." Rings slid on, cool metal warming to skin, and our kiss sealed it, cheers erupting like fireworks, Ellie tossing petals that stuck to our laps. The reception flowed. Potluck spreads of hot dish and ribs, dances to Willie Nelson, Dad two-stepping with Carla. Ellie conked out on a blanket under stars. But the day's triumph masked deeper currents. That night, as guests departed and the ranch quieted, Isaiah and I walked the fence line, lanterns bobbing like fireflies. "He'll come back," I said, lacing fingers. Isaiah nodded, but worry etched his brow. Maybe, but we're not running. Emotions crested in the barn, hayloft our confessional. Bodies entwined not in passion's haste, but love's slow affirmation, whispers tracing histories, his deployments, my bonfires, into unity. We deserve this, he murmured, echoing that first day's grace. Sleep came deep, tangled limbs a bulwark. Morning brought vindication. The video viral on local feeds, Chief Harlan's cruiser fleeing a hate wedding raid. Hashtags Love Wins Harlan trending. Resignations followed. Deputies citing conscience. The mayor issuing a tepid statement on inclusivity. Betrayal transmuted to justice, humanistic in its community reckoning. Town halls on bias, youth art shows featuring my sketches. Dad's decoys auctioned for a pride fund. Summer waned. Our honeymoon a road trip up the Great River Road. Bluffs and locks, motels with neon signs, returning tanned and tethered. Ellie split weeks between ranches, her chatter bridging worlds. Isaiah took on apprentices at the garage teaching torque and tolerance. I opened a studio in town, classes for queer kids drawing their truths. Dad dated a widow from church, her acceptance a quiet revolution. Yet romance endured, deepened by trials. Anniversaries with river picnics, his letters from the road for supply runs, scented with sandalwood. Emotions wove humanistic threads, forgiving the town's slights, not erasing them, but alchemizing into growth. One autumn eve, as combines hummed distant, Isaiah knelt by the fire pit, Ellie's head in my lap. We made it, he said, toasting marshmallows. I smiled, tracing his ring. And we'll keep making it. Years folded like accordion pleats, each crease a chapter of resilience and revelation. By our 5th anniversary, the ranch had expanded, a guest cabin for Ellie's summers. Now a teenager with braces and a sketchpad of her own. Her style a blend of my lines and Isaiah's bold strokes. Harlan evolved, grudgingly. The high school GSA club sponsored by Mrs. Whitaker. Annual pride parades down Main Street with tractors draped in rainbows. Chief Harlan retired to Florida. His send-off a muted affair. Whispers of settlements and sensitivity training trailing him like smoke. But peace demanded vigilance. Conflict resurfaced in subtle guises. A new pastor at the Lutheran church decrying alternative families from the pulpit. His flock dwindling when Dad stood one Sunday, voice booming. My son and his husband built this town stronger. Sit down or step out. Applause rippled, but the fracture lingered, testing our bonds. Isaiah, ever the soldier, channeled it into advocacy. Testifying at state hearings on marriage equality expansions, his drawl steady over podiums, my portfolio of Heartland queer portraits projected behind. We're not exceptions, he'd say. We're the rule. Loving hard in the dirt and dust. Betrayal's specter returned unbidden, a ghost from Isaiah's past. Ramirez, the army buddy, visited unannounced one spring, motorcycle rumbling up the drive, duffel slung over shoulder. Beers by the fire pit turned confessional. He'd carried guilt for years, silent during the outing, fearing his own secrets. Thought it'd pass, he admitted, face shadowed. Isaiah forgave slow, words measured over embers. It shaped me, but it don't own me. I watched, sketching their profiles, scarred, similar, marveling at Grace's quiet power. Ramirez stayed a week, helping mend fences literal and figurative, departing with a hug and a promise. You boys changed the game. Climax whispered rather than roared, arriving in a hospital room much like the first. Dad, now silver-haired and stooped, clutching his chest during a VFW fish fry. We raced through harvest stubble, Isaiah's hand white-knuckled on mine, Ellie's texts frantic from her dorm in Ames. The ER hummed familiar. Stents upgraded, meds adjusted, but the scare cracked open vulnerabilities. In the waiting room, Isaiah paced, ghosts of Fallujah mingling with fresh fears. What if I'm next, leaving you to pick up pieces? I pulled him down, forehead to forehead. Then we piece it together. Like always. Dad rallied, true to form, wheezy jokes over Jell-O. Gonna outlive you both, just to say I told you so. Discharge brought home hospice talks. Not immediate, but horizons shortening. We adapted. Ramps on the porch, Dad's recliner by the window overlooking the pasture. His stories a nightly ritual. Army escapades embellished for Ellie, who rolled her eyes but leaned in. Emotions swelled humanistic. Forgiveness for his early blindness, gratitude for late blooming. You gave me a family twice over, he told us one dusk, voice fading. Don't squander it. The end came gentle. A July dawn with mockingbirds caroling outside his window. Isaiah and I flanked the bed, Ellie's hand in his, as breath slowed to sighs. Proud, he whispered last, eyes on us, then slipping away like mist off the river. Grief crashed. Funeral packed the church. Eulogies from unlikely mouths. The pastor, humbled. Chief Harlan's successor, pledging progress. We scattered ashes at the bend. Stones skipping in tribute. Ellie's throw the farthest. In the hollows of loss, love anchored. Isaiah and I leaned harder, counseling in Iowa City where vulnerability became verb, date nights at the diner, holding hands over pie. Romance rekindled in embers. A vow renewal under the oaks. Just us and Ellie. Rings recast with Dad's dog tags melted in. Seen, not judged. Isaiah murmured. Kiss sealing eternity. Years ripened. Ellie graduated, art degree in hand. Gallery opening in Chicago featuring our trio's works. Heartland Legacies. Isaiah mentored vets through a Des Moines nonprofit, his testimony a beacon. I published a collection, Scars and Rivers, proceeds funding scholarships for queer youth. Harlan honored Dad with a plaque at the VFW. Tom Riley, builder of bridges. His legacy woven into ours. On our 10th anniversary, we returned to the river, picnic basket brimming, Ellie's video call crackling from the city. Isaiah spread a blanket, pulling me close. Still deserve it? He asked, echoing that first hook. I traced his lines, deeper now but brighter. More than ever. As water whispered and sun dipped low, we lay entwined. Hearts synced to the land's pulse. Dramatic in trials, emotional in depths, romantic in persistence, humanistic in healing. Seen fully, loved wholly. In America's heart we'd carved our place. Epilogue whispers. Ellie, wedding-bound herself, asks for our story. We tell it seamless, from door swung open to lives intertwined. Proof that judgment yields to grace, one scar at a time.